All right, we did a couple of labs that talked about direct and inverse variation. If you need a little bit more help on this, this will help you through it. So first of all, direct variation is when you have two variables and their ratio is a constant. So this means if you say y varies directly as x, it means that y over x is a constant. Right? I can solve this equation for y, and I actually have an equation y equals kx. So these are the equations you will use for direct variation. What this is telling you is that both x and y are going to go in the same direction. So in the lab that you did, when you increase the number of books, the distance that the car traveled was further. So both variables went up proportionately. It could also vary directly if they went down proportionately. But both x and y have to either both go up or both go down. Here's an example. If I said write an equation to describe the following, y varies directly as x. If x is 4, y is 16, write the equation. So since it is direct variation, you know the ratio of y to x is a constant. So you know that the ratio of y to x is a constant. You can simply fill in the information that they give you. They told you y was 16, x was 4. So if I divide those, you know the constant is 4. Now that I know that the constant is 4, I can write the equation. Remember, if it is direct variation, the equation will be y equals kx. You can just use your constant equation above and solve it for y, and you'll get this equation. And then I just substitute 4 in for k, and I get the equation as y is 4x. Another way that I could ask a question would be simply saying y varies directly as x, and I give you a circumstance. When x is 5, y is 8. So I'm giving you both x and y, and then I'm asking you to find the value of y when x is 3. Now you could go ahead and find the constant by doing y over x and then writing the equation and filling in x is 3 and solving for y. But since I'm not actually asking you for the equation or the constant, you can use the fact that you know that the ratios have to be constant. So you know that y over x, if that's a constant, and y2 over x2 is a constant, and since it's all in the same problem, it will be the same constant, you can simply set them equal to each other. So I can just fill in the information I know. Y is 8, x is 5. Y2 is what they're asking you to solve for when x is 3. And now I can just cross multiply and solve for y. Inverse variation is when two variables vary inversely when their product is a constant. So it would say y varies inversely as x means that x times y is a constant. Again, if I solve this constant equation for y, my equation is y equals k over x. Therefore, x and y are going to be opposite of each other. When y goes up, x goes down, and when y goes down, x goes up. So here's an example. Write an equation to describe the following. Y varies inversely as x, and x is 4 and y is 3. All right, since it's inverse variation, I know the product has to be a constant. So I know the constant is y times x. I just use the information they give me and solve for k. Now that I know that my constant is 12, I can write the equation. Remember, the equation for an inverse variation would be y equals k over x. Just plugging in the constant, I have y equals 12 over x. Again, I can ask this question in another way. If I'm not asking for the constant or the equation, you can just set up a ratio. Since you know that if it's inverse variation, you know the products have to be a constant, I can set the product of x1, y1 equal to the product of x2, y2. Now that I have this equation, I can just set up the information that they gave me. X is 2, y is 36. They wanted me to find y when x is 4. Go ahead and just carry out the math, divide by 14, and simplify your fraction. So here's what a word problem would look like. Boyle's law states that for a constant temperature, the pressure P of a gas varies inversely with its volume V. A sample of hydrogen gas has a volume of 8.56 cubic liters at a pressure of 1.5 atmospheres. Find the volume of a hydrogen gas if the pressure changes to 1.2 atmospheres. So the only thing they are asking me is to find the volume. So I'm going to use the fact that I know that P varies inversely with volume, and I know that if it's an inverse variation, their products have to be equal to each other because their products will be a constant. Now that I have this set up, I can just plug in the information that they have given me in the problem. The first sample of gas has an atmosphere of 1.5 and 8.56 cubic liters, and it's asking me to find the volume when the pressure changes to 1.2. So I can just go ahead and do the math out here, and I know the volume has to be 10.7 cubic liters. Okay, let's look at another example. A person's weekly pay is directly proportional to the number of hours worked. Sean's pay is $123 for 20 hours of work. Find the amount of pay for 31 hours. So the important information here is that the weekly pay is directly proportional to the number of hours worked. So let's declare our variables. I'll call P for pay and H for hours worked. Since it's direct variation, I know their ratios are a constant. So I'll set P1 over H1 equal to P2 over H2. If I plug in the information they've given me, $123 for 20 hours work, I want to find the pay for 31 hours worked. All right, just go ahead and cross multiply and divide here by 20, and you'll get that the pay is $190.65. All right, if you have any other questions, please let me know.